So?
Yep.
All right, well, look, first, before I do anything else or take any questions, I want to show you something. When this case first got turned in, this is the binder that the Southaven Police Department turned in. And the reason why I'm showing you this is because normally when you turn a case in, it has the defendant's name and the defendant's picture. But from the first day that this unit started working on this case, it was never about the defendant. It was about the victims. And that's what this trial was about this week, was to protect and to serve the victims and to make sure that they got justice. So I'm extremely satisfied with the outcome. But I also want to say that if it weren't for the quick response of the Southaven Police Department and the Horn Lake Police Department, this would have been a much bigger tragedy. The fact that they were there within 3 minutes saved multiple lives. I have no doubt about that. Had this man been allowed to get to his car, he had an AK-47, a ballistic vest, multiple rounds, and I do believe he intended further harm. So first, let me make sure that the first thing I will always say is that the reason why DeSoto County is safe, and it's a good place to live and a safe place to live, is because of our law enforcement, who take the safety of our citizens as their #1 job. And you heard the testimony, if you were in there, that they were there to secure that position and to save lives and to eliminate the threat. And that's why we were able to get this conviction today, because of the legwork and the hard work that they did. I also want to take time to thank the ATF, the FBI, and the Mississippi Bureau of Investigations. We could not have done this without them, couldn't have obtained the verdict that we obtained without them, and the victims would have been left with, I think, a sour taste in their mouths if we could not have gotten to where we got today. So with that said, I will say I'm extremely pleased with what we had. I hope this sends a message to everybody that DeSoto County is a safe place to live, and it is not a place to come and commit crime. Because if you commit crime in this county, you will be arrested, you will be prosecuted, and if the facts warrant it, you will be sentenced to death. So that's the message that people need to know about this county. So with that said, I'll take any questions.
DA Morris, obviously you guys got what you wanted and the families got what they wanted. Can you talk about, you touched on it a little bit, but getting the death penalty, can you talk about the outcome today?
Well, it's hard to say that you're pleased about that, because I certainly don't relish in the fact that someone's going to lose their lives. However, this case was the most egregious case I have ever seen, as far as the methodical approach that was taken to the murder, to the methods that were used, to the video evidence that existed. And so while I don't revel in someone's misery, the people that were harmed by this weren't just the victims and the decedents. The law enforcement people were harmed by it, the first responders, the firemen, the people that worked there. So this event has a long-lasting and permanent effect on the community. So I think the punishment fits the crime. And so to that extent, I am satisfied.
Can you talk a bit about how quick that conviction was in comparison to how long deliberations were over the sentencing?
Well, the question of guilt, I don't think, was ever at issue. And I think the defendant testifying and admitting on cross-examination to every element of the case, I think, helped the jury reach that conclusion. I would say that certainly, and we during voir dire, we really talked a lot about this, about the weight and the possibility that the jurors would have to return a verdict that involved a death penalty, that they would have to come out in open court, they would have to do justice, they would have to speak justice to the public. And so I'm not surprised by that. I do think that the heavier issue was whether or not to apply the death penalty. And so I actually am glad they took long, because I do feel like justice was done and it was the right result. And I think they gave due consideration to the evidence from both sides. I think Mr. John Keith Perry did an excellent job presenting mitigation. And so I think I'm actually glad that they took that long, because it shows me that they didn't rush to judgment.
And you just came out from speaking with family. What was your message to them, and what was their message to you just now?
My message to them was that it's been unfortunate that we had to meet under these circumstances, but I was very pleased to have provided them the service that they needed, which was to prosecute the case, to see to it that justice was done. And I advised them that I'm not done being in their life, and I hope they will remain in mine, because we've become friends. So, you know, it's a bittersweet situation. none of those people in there want to cause harm, but it had to happen. Anything else?
Just jumping in real quick.
Yes, sir.
You made a point in mentioning that Mr. Abram's demeanor, the tenor in his voice, you said that was fabrication to manipulate the jury's decision. Are you, despite that, are you satisfied that the jury saw through that?
I think that the jury saw through it. I don't think it impacted them really one way or the other once they found out that his demeanor in that fashion changed after he was arrested or after the interrogation. So yes, I do believe at some point during the investigation and the prosecution he attempted to manipulate some of the doctors. I think that's human nature. So I just wanted to make sure though, because I think there was an attempt by the defendant, not his attorney, but by him, to evoke sympathy on the part of the jury. And they did see through that, and I'm pleased, and that's why I made a point of mentioning it. Anything else? All right.
We're good. Thank you.
guys.
That's mine. Oh my God. Don't steal Elvis's?
This one's yours.
Yeah.
Trying to brush some of those chins out for me. All right?